Hello. All right. Does this look alright? I can't really. Maybe I should have it like this. Oh my god. Oh no. Maybe like this would be okay. Da 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 da. Da 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 ba da ba da. Ba da 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 da. Do 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 do. All right. Let's go here. No 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 no. Da 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 da. All right. Okay. All right. Can you guys still hear me okay? Okay. I think so. All right. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian from Kingdom Hearts Across the Nation. And today is going to be a little bit of a different video from, well, maybe not so different. I mean, I'm keeping you guys up to date with some news. Okay, basically. And okay, so as we all know, lately, quite lately, I would say, like, you know, within the last few months or so, like, I mean, just in general, there are specific issues and problems with the game as it is right now. Okay, there's no hiding that fact. It's if you've spent any decent amount of time playing the game, it starts becoming apparent to you that, like, there's like stuff missing that kind of needs to be there, and like there's parts of the game that are really try to take advantage of you and stuff like that. So I'm kind of going over something. So, and this has been a problem, not problem, and these have been issues for like quite a long time. They're nothing like brand new. So one of the things that oh man, is the door open or something? No. So for those of you that aren't aware, last time during Senna's last stream that I had on Twitch, okay, they were actually able to receive some of the questions that you and I have managed to pull together in like the brief span of time that we had, and I was able to submit it to Glacy, who was luckily able to receive it, and she mentioned in the stream and was able to answer some of our questions and whatnot during the stream. Okay. Now, for those of you that don't know as well, I also mentioned later on, I sent her both privately and on social media too, just to hopefully that she still gets it, that I will be sending her more information about stuff that we are, you know, interested in and whatnot later on, and this will be a little bit more of a longer document and whatnot. So one of the kind of documents that I wanted to send her were a list of problems, and I don't mean just random I mean major problems with the game, ones that need the most attention, as well as a possible list of solutions to a lot of these problems for the game. And I put them all in one document, and essentially I made a Reddit post just for this. Okay, I wanted to, just like I did with the Twitch stream and whatnot, I wanted to send it directly to her, but apparently the file was too big, so I wasn't able to actually just send it to her directly. But at the very least, I sent her a message saying hey, I did this. Hopefully you get to see it. So, but at the very least, what I'm hoping for you guys is that you guys can go ahead. I'm gonna go over the document today because I want to talk about it. That's the whole point of this video today. But at the same time, I would like you guys to when you get the chance to take a moment and go look at it yourself. I'll leave the link in the description below to the Reddit post. But to go ahead and take a look at it yourself and go ahead and read over it. Okay, it's gonna be everything in this video, but it's fairly long. And honestly, if you have any comments of your own on ways to make the game better, it's two, as well as any possible other major aspects of the game I may have missed that are not in the document. It'll be great if you could leave a comment in there as well towards those type of things, as well as so before we dive into things, before by the way, sorry for the kind of discoloration that's kind of going on with my video right now. I'm back in my parents' place, and the lighting is a little funky. But in terms of Reddit, okay. So I'm actually brand new to Reddit. All right, I personally don't like using Reddit. I try to avoid it as much as possible. But I essentially found out that Glacy really only majorly responds at all to people on Reddit, and to me that just strikes me the wrong way. But there's nothing I can do about it, so I kind of have to deal with it. I talked to one of the Square Enix people, trying to possibly get some type of private channel between the two of us open, even if they can't directly answer everything I have to say, or I have questions about whatnot. At the very least, I can send them stuff so I know they receive it, and I don't have to go through all these elaborate processes to try to send them stuff. But at the very so that went interesting. I won't delve into that too much, but at the very least, in terms of Reddit, I'm brand new to Reddit. I'm not familiar with the subculture at all, and it kind of ended up costing me as a small mistake on this part. But when it came to the actual Reddit post that I made for the document, okay, so as you can see right here on my screen, it's really long. It's a very detailed and long document. Okay, when I typed it out on Microsoft Word, it was at least 3 pages. So and I added even more to it after posting it too. So I can imagine it's probably even longer than 3 pages now. So yeah, it's pretty long. And I'll try to go through it as quickly as possible in this video. But I didn't realize, so just before I get started, just to kind of comment, I didn't realize that apparently there's a great distaste for people who try to tag Glacy in Reddit in posts and such, that to the point where people are just starting to just downvote it endlessly at this point. I wasn't aware of this, so at the moment my post is kind of in this strange limbo of constantly fluctuating between 0 and 5 upvotes, positive upvotes I should say, because as of right now, so many people are just looking at the title and just downvoting it without even reading the article, without reading the post. But then those people that are reading it are leaving a ton of likes as well. So it's just stuck here. So for those of you that want to help out, if you can go ahead and check the link and leave a like as well. Hopefully Glacy would be able to see this if she hadn't already. Because it sucks that because of something like that I was not aware of, my post ended up suffering significantly. and it's received like about 1,700 views at this point too, which is saying something. The fact it has a 50% like and dislike ratio at 50% solely because of this small mistake is definitely a feat to be a little amazed at least for me. But anyways, I'm going on a little too much. Let me get started with this. Okay, so there was when it came to this post, so when it came to this document and whatnot, there was a lot of things about the game I really wanted to address. All right, so like things such as like different a lot of things such as like Keyblade setups, types of metals and whatnot, as well as like just simple gameplay, and I even listed like a bunch of the just major current issues and whatnot, and I even and people who like made requests. I made like a little miscellaneous request section as well, and I even had an entire section about how bad these new trait metals are, the new trait metal mechanic. For those of you that don't know how it works, I'm not going to take the time to explain how they work right now. I would just, because that would just make the video too long. I would just recommend for now at least looking up somewhere else how they work. I watched DHE's video when they first came out about how they work, just so I can help solidify my knowledge about it. So I would recommend doing something like that if you don't know how they work already. They should be in the in-game's notice and such at the very least. But yeah, let me get started with the very beginning, okay? Actually, since we're on the topic, I'll start with the trait metals. Okay, so there really is no better way to state this, but the trait metals are really overall pretty much more of a step backwards for the game than anything else, because honestly they in a nutshell they are just completely not doing what we wanted trait metals to do in the first place. Okay, the major reason, or a major reason I should state, for wanting trait metals was because of the fact that for a lot of the portions of the game where we get medals, we can't get more copies of those medals, and I'm referring to things like high score challenge medals, VIP medals, and those exclusive event banner medals. Okay, now if you wanted to, you could say by extent the EX medals as well, but we see those every once in a while, so I don't really like include those too much. But pretty much for the most part, I'm talking about the high score challenge, VIP, and exclusive banners. In case you don't know what I mean by exclusive banner, I mean things like the DuckTales event and banner and collaboration that we had just a while ago, for example. Like chances are we may never see that again. All right, so because of that, it's basically impossible to try and get any more like Scrooge McDucks or any of the DuckTales medals to try and get more traits or whatnot, and that's part of the problem I'm trying to like address. And these new trait medals just don't do any of that. Okay, they don't solve or provide any sort of way to provide more traits for all these old medals we have, or even some new medals we have too, that we just can't get any more traits of. Like for example, I have Warrior of Light, okay, and don't get me wrong, it's a really good medal. It's just it's just bonkers, but I rolled double paralyzed resist on that thing. What am I supposed to do about that? There's nothing I can do about that. Yeah. Like, I would really like to have extra attack or minus 60 defense on that thing, but I have no way to re-roll it whatsoever. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you who may have gotten the medal too are in a similar boat, or even with other high score challenge medals like Valor Genie. Like, we were lucky that Valor Genie got reprinted in the new Heavy Hitters deal. Whether or not something like that will happen again, I have no idea, but we'll see, I guess. But at the very least, in terms of this post, I was making statements based off what was happening right now. I actually posted this like a day or two ago. But I actually posted this before the trait medals came out, and I was commenting based off what I saw of the JP version. So basically, so some of the things that I said, or basically everything I said, okay, is that so on the beginning part, I basically said what I just said, that it's based off what was seen in JP, okay, and so. I personally, I like to give credit where credit is due. Okay, so if you're doing a good job about something, I will make it known that you're doing a good job. I will say good job, and I'll list reasons for a good job and stuff like that. At the same time, that also means that if you're doing something wrong or there's something wrong with whatever, I will also point that out too. Okay, it's a balanced equation. I'm not just gonna I'm not gonna just give out positive feedback 100% because that's boring and a little fake, to be honest, at least in my opinion. So in terms of what was good about these trait metals, okay, now as I hope you can probably tell, one of the main things that is obviously the whole point of these new trait metals is the fact that you can give these new specific EX metals that come out from now on to have trait metals, so you can give them new traits. All right, that's pretty much the main point of them. They also give dots, if that matters. I don't think they can actually gilt the metal. From what I understand, tell me if I'm wrong. But like that's not what I'm focusing on. But but they're basically there to get to provide you ways to get traits for the new EX metals that come out in the future and whatnot. Okay, that's one of the main pros about it. The other pro is that they actually can provide the other pro is that they can actually provide assist percentages for high score challenges, for their respective high score challenge. All right, but okay. Aside from these two, though, these are literally the only two benefits that I can think of about these new trait metals. Okay, when I actually thought about the cons, the list is way longer and way more explanatory too. Okay, so let me get to the first point. The first one is, okay, so right now when it comes to the trait metals, we have the option of putting it in the pet slot because it has a cost of 99. So we can't put it on the actual Keyblade. It can only go in the pet slot since the pet slot doesn't use any cost. All right. But at the same time, if it's in the pet slot, okay, when it's in the pet slot, it also does no damage. Like you can use its special ability to use one gauge, and it basically just does no damage. You can even tap with it, and it just doesn't. It literally does no damage. Like, which begs the question, like, why would I want to use this metal in the pet slot outside of a high score challenge? Because you would only use it in a high score challenge for the assist percentage. It literally doesn't make any sense. So quite literally using any other, like literally any other normal metal, even a tier 1 metal, and that's saying a lot, instead of the trait metal in the pet slot, is just strictly better. Again, outside of high score challenges. So that right there is like an issue. It's like, why? Okay. The second thing is that obviously once its own high score challenge is gone, the trait metal itself already loses some of its value. Half its value, I should say. Because of the fact that it's no longer providing that assist percentage. So it's only there just to fuse into the EX metal itself to give you traits. That's all it's there for at that point. The third point I made was that if you don't have, and this is one of the major ones too, if you don't have the EX metal to go with it, like in general, then what's the point in having the trait metal? Like right now, we have both the Riku EX banner up, as well as a separate banner for the trait metal. I don't really know how else to explain this, but like, at least for me, I'm just not touching this banner at all. Because to me, Riku EX isn't really meta breaking or anything. It's like it can help slightly on the fairy stars, but like it's nothing, and it can also help out on an already decent counterpoint setup as well. But like that's just 2 Keyblades. Like I'm not gonna get an EX medal just for these slight significant like increases and whatnot. I want drastic like changes. But aside from that, I'm not looking to pull from Riku EX. But at the same time, we have a separate banner solely for the trait metal, which is a 5 mercy pool where you can get the trait metal. To me, that just that just sounds ridiculous. No way am I gonna pay like $100 or 1,500 jewels just so I can get a trait medal, especially when I haven't gotten the actual medal itself. To me, that just makes no sense whatsoever. They're probably much better off from having a normal banner, falling prize banner with a mercy pool, and have the trait medal included as a sub mercy. So, like for example, let's say we have Riku EX as the 15 mercy. They could even bump it up to 20 mercy for all I know. Okay, and then they can have the trait medal as the 5 mercy. All right, keep in mind this is with like a falling price deal type thing. So that's a little bit more reasonable. Where at the very least, if I'm trying to mercy the trait medal, I'm like guaranteed oh my bad. At the very least, like if I'm trying to mercy the actual EX medal itself, I'm guaranteed to get at least 1 trait medal in the process. That at the very least is somewhat worthwhile, or at least more worthwhile, I should say. Okay. Another thing too, and I kind of already talked about it a little bit. I'm gonna kneel down. Another thing too, and I kind of already talked about a little bit, is the fact that these trait medals only work for their specific EX medal. And to me, that's just a huge problem. Like, that just completely disregards, like, the whole point of wanting the trait medals, okay? Like I mentioned before, we want, or at least very least I want, and I would assume by extension a lot of other people would want, trait medals, primarily because of the fact we have a ton of these other past medals that we really want to use, but we can't competitively because they don't have the right traits. That's the biggest issue. So like I can't use this Riku EX trait medal on, say, the King and Donald and Goofy, should I say, okay? And keep them, and I should probably say too, I still use the King and Donald and Goofy to this day for my raid boss setups. It is still one of like the best raid boss medals in the game at the moment. Okay, like it's still super useful. I pretty much have, like, along with, I believe it's like key art 13 or 12 or whatever. I have the picture up on the screen. Along with that, like those two medals alone, I essentially have a Keyblade setup that works for against every single raid boss in the game. It's great. It's fantastic. But I can't reroll traits for these type of things. So it just it literally just disregards that whole aspect. Another thing I should probably add, and this goes along with EX medals again too, is that, I hope this isn't too loud. Another thing I should add too, another point that I also had, and this kind of goes along with the EX medals too, is the fact that EX medals are already hard enough as it is to get. So if you're putting the trait medal in a separate banner like it is right now, no, then you're kind of Holly. Oh my god. Ali. Like normally, as of right now, if you're trying to get, like the way it is right now, if you're trying to get a EX medal, as it is right now, if you're trying to get an EX medal, you're probably sinking in at least 30 to 60k worth of jewels, depending on whether or not it's falling price and mercy and whatnot. Okay, that's generally the amount we're spending right now, and that's just if you have the jewels, like you saved up that amount in the first place. That's not even counting trying to spend money to try and like get the mercy at that point either. So EX medals are already hard enough as it is in the game, so when you put another separate banner for the trait medal, I can almost guarantee you that most people, unless you're a whale, and I would probably guess that maybe like 1% of the Union Cross community is maybe a whale, would actually go for the trait medals, because of the fact you already put in so much of your resources in the normal medal itself, in the actual EX medal. And at this point, honestly, like if you're going for the EX medal at this point, yeah. So to me, it just doesn't make it like that just makes no sense whatsoever. One thing I kind of also added was that if like the devs, like the people who help manage and create the game and whatnot, if they decide to keep the new trait medal mechanic the way it is right now, which isn't that great to be honest, at least what do we have available, I would recommend on their part they at least provide a consistent way for us to obtain more copies of the older or at least previous high score challenge, VIP, and exclusive event medals that we've had in the past to help help compensate this issue, because again, like I mentioned, the whole point of wanting the trait medals was to get more traits for those impossible to get like medals these days. So at the very least, like if they could do something like that, that would at least help address and kind of solve the issue. All right, so enough about trait medals, okay? And that was just like a third of the article. All right, so I'm gonna go into let's talk about what are some of the current issues with the game right now. Okay, so right here I have a whole chunk section about a lot of the major aspects of the game that like kind of like need to be addressed, and like I know like people have been complaining about a lot of these things for the longest time too. Some of them are not so addressed, but some of them are fairly obvious. Okay, the first one being that as it is right now, money is kind of useless in the game right now. All right, like the longer you've been playing, the lot easier it is to just get tons of money. That like money becomes irrelevant. Like I'm at the point right now where I pretty much have maxed out money. Like I can't get more money. That sounds strange. Like I'm at the point where I can literally like it's more beneficial for me to actually use my Moogle medals as fusion materials instead, and because of the fact I have no more need for money. Like if you're a VIP player at any point, like you play during like those premium quests and stuff that just drop like evolution and Moogles and stuff out of the yin yang, like you definitely know what I'm talking about. But even for those of you who aren't VIP, who are maybe like free to play, we get Moogles so much that like it's not too difficult to easily get money. You can even farm the money quest in the special events section like a ton of times until you're good enough to, if you really wanted to. Like it's money's literally not a problem. The second thing that I wanted the second issue that I addressed was the fact that as it is right now, although it's kind of been getting somewhat better lately, which is a good thing, but it needs to be consistent, which is the point, is that along with money, the AP in the game isn't very relevant or important. We get 0 AP campaigns so much that it's like, what's the point? Just like money, what's the point of having it in the game? Now, don't take me wrong, okay? I personally don't mind 0 APs. Justin, I'm recording, so just keep it down. Now keep in mind, I have no problem with 0 AP campaigns in general, as long as they are not during a competitive raid boss week, and that's a separate issue in its own. Okay, but the fact is too, though, like, because we get them so often, like beforehand in the past, they used to be very special things where like, and it makes sense, like those type of campaigns should be very special type of events that don't happen very regularly. But when they do, it's like, oh my god, they're so nice. Now it's to the point where like they're just throwing it at us out of obligation, and that's like, that doesn't help us. Okay, that just doesn't help us as the players, or at least make the game exciting. A main reason why people are complaining about why there's a lack of content in the game and such is because of the fact that, well, we have 0 AP campaigns so much that we can basically just marathon our way through the game, and we can finish so quickly that there's nothing left for us to do. Well, the whole point of AP in the game is to help mitigate that. It's supposed to force you to take your time playing the game, which in turn, because of the fact you're taking longer to play the game, it gives the devs more chances and more time to add content to the game over time as well. The whole point of AP is supposed to kind of put you on the same time frame as the devs and whatnot. So by just chucking at us 0 AP campaigns all the time, it just completely ruins that aspect. And like, I'm not even touching competitive, because that's just that's just a whole nother beast. Like, that's even more disastrous. But yeah, like having 0 AP campaigns so often is actually hurting the game and player base, I guess you could say, than it is actually helping us. And I would honestly recommend to them that they only give them out every once in a while, like as like special type of things for the game. Another issue that I mentioned was that Sid medals are pretty much kind of obsolete at this point in the game. Like once you level up to level 300 and you buy all of the useful nodes in the avatar boards that increase your AP and whatnot, Sid medals are kind of like honestly, I don't even do Sid medal quests anymore, if that tells you anything, because I have so many of them and I barely use them in the first place because of how high my cost is, that like they're very irrelevant. So I would suggest that so the fact that we get them almost all the time in avatar boards as like Coliseum rewards, even competitive week rewards, like we get them rewards for like basically everything. At this point, I would just recommend like completely taking them out of rewards in the first place, especially since we can farm them anyways in the daily quest. It makes no point to give them to us as rewards when we can farm them anyways. I would choose to make them, put them into like some type of shop category or something, so that way like if we need them we can buy them, but like don't give them to us as a reward, because it's not a reward. That's just, if anything, it's more of a nuisance at this point, if that makes sense. Another point I mentioned was the fact that the Coliseum and competitive raid boss weeks need to have the rewards upgraded, because as of right now, many competitive players aren't as incentivized to play competitive anymore due to the rewards for both modes either not being competitive worthy, so like the rewards are just simply not up to par with what we would want as a competitive player, or the rewards are outdated and not good enough anymore as they used to be. And a good example that I provide are the gems that we get in competitive weeks these days. Okay, in the past, it used to be very difficult, or at least somewhat difficult, to obtain gems to level up our Keyblades. Okay, but as it is right now, we get gems so often that getting gems in these competitive modes are practically not worth it anymore. Like I can literally disregard playing competitive at this point because of the fact of how subpar the rewards are for, well, being competitive. Okay, and for those of you that are wondering like what I mean by it's so easy to get gems, let me just list some examples. We get those like ×3 gem banners every once in a while in the shop. We get those ×5 gem avatar board deals every once in a while as well. We get them every once in a while, practically almost every other week at this point, in VIP for those of you who buy VIP. We get them in rewards in the Coliseum and competitive, like I just mentioned, as well as even recently we started getting some gems in Proud mode if you're far enough in Proud mode. Like there's just so many different ways to get gems at this point, and so many of them too to boot, that like playing competitively, it's like what's the point? And that's just for the competitive players, okay? Well, no, that's just in general, okay? And because of this, because of the fact that we don't really have to play competitively anymore for this type of like rewards, it kind of makes the game boring and doesn't really incentivize to want to play. Like in the past, I had fun trying to keep up competitively because of the fact that like I had a chance to get these gems that like were difficult to obtain to level up, and which would let me play competitively even more and such. That was like the incentive. That was like what drew me to playing competitively. Now there's none of that. I should also mention too that like these days we're getting all these avatar parts in like competitive modes who don't have any perks that really help us out too much, or good enough perks, I should say. Like we'll still get like +3 raid boss perk and stuff like that. I'm like, well, I have a +10 raid boss perk. I have a +5. Like or you already have like 3 other +3s. Like they're really not good enough at this point. That's like, why? So they really need to be updated. Another point too is the fact that pretty much every single medal that's below tier 5 at this point are essentially useless in the game, and which kind of sucks because for a lot of us, like I know for me, and I'm pretty sure for a lot of you guys as well watching this video, that a lot of you guys really personally have like a personal attachment to a lot of your old medals. Like for me, I personally really enjoy my King and Donald and Goofy. Luckily, I can still use those for raid bosses. But I also I like my illustrated Belle and Beast medal, like that we got as a VIP medal like forever, like last year or something like that. I really like that. Like that was a really cool medal for me. I can't use that anymore. Oh no, that's not right. Like personally, like I really like the old Organization 13 medals that we got like last year and whatnot. Like those were really cool. It was fun, and the medals were actually pretty decent too. So, like, but as of right now, the fact that we're like a tier 7, we're about to get tier 8 too. Like our Keyblades and our medals and setups and whatnot are just so advanced that like we can't use a lot of our old beloved medals anymore. And at this point, they're kind of just taking up space, especially since we're not getting any consistent like Phil Cups, Pegasus Cups, Hades Cups like JP is and whatnot. And it just ends up making a lot of these old medals just kind of useless. And like obviously the easiest way to like address this issue would just give us more Phil Cups and stuff like that, but they don't, and it's a little boggling why they can't do stuff like that. Another issue that I addressed was that and this was kind of like, this wasn't like a major issue, but like it's an issue that always pops up whenever I try to do Union Cross with friends or party members and whatnot, and it's the fact that like I can't do Union Cross with a lot of my friends who aren't in my party, let alone my union. Okay. And I can't begin to tell you how many times I've like seen it happens where many players want to play with their friends, but because of the fact that they're in completely separate parties and parties can only reach 30 players, and sometimes even different unions, like we can't like it's just impossible to play with each other unless we leave our party and possible union as well and join their party if there's space and if their party leader allows it to and whatnot. Like there's so many barriers towards trying to play with your friends that like that just confuses me. Why? Because the fact the whole point of Union Cross is to be able to play with your friends, to play with other people. That's literally the whole point of Union Cross. But yet there's so many barriers to doing that. Like it just doesn't make sense. It's a little counterintuitive. At the very least, I would say make it so you can at least try to directly play friends with other people in your union. I can understand with not being able to play with people in different unions because, you know, that kind of goes against the lore of Union Cross and whatnot. But at the very least, make it so you can play with other people in your union directly without being in the same party. I would like that to be at least be addressed. It would definitely make things more exciting. And for me too, as a content creator, like I would have tons of fun being able to actually play with you guys personally on my streams and whatnot, or even from my Discord, to just play Union Cross with you guys. I could even carry some of you guys if you're a beginner. Like it's like one of those things. It's like it's a little counterintuitive. Okay, so this next point's somewhat been addressed, but until I see it being consistent and whatnot, I'm leaving it here in the post. But I basically stated that raid bosses during competitive weeks need to have their HP bars significantly raised, basically along the same lines as what we have for the weekend raid bosses right now, as long as maybe even possibly similar to what the Mysterious Sir had in the Record Keeper event that we just had. But we need raid bosses during competitive weeks to have their HP bars significantly higher, because as they are right now, it's just hurting all the veteran players who took so much time to make legitimate luck setups specifically for competitive weeks and whatnot. And it's honestly just like a slap in the face for us at this point. Again, they did address this a little bit with like the weekend raid boss and Mysterious Sir and whatnot. So I'm hoping that they also did the same thing for competitive week raid bosses. But as of right now, because we haven't had one yet since the new updates, this is a point on my document. The last issue that I have in my document as well, and it kind of goes along with, it's just about trait medals. It's the fact that we need universal trait medals, or at least some form of universal trait medals, not like these specific EX trait medals that are currently in the game. I would totally kind of similar to what people were speculating when the DuckTales were kind of announced before we knew what they did. I honestly would still be perfectly fine if we had 3 or 4 different trait medals where like they're specific to attributes. So like we have a power trait medal that can only trait power medals. Same thing with magic and speed, and then we can have like a universal trait medal as well. Like maybe you can like combine all 3 attribute trait medals to make the universal trait medal, something like that. Like I would still be okay with something like that, because at the very least, like I can still give my old medals different traits. I just need some type of trait medal system along these lines to happen. Otherwise, like it's just not worth it to me. All right. So I know that's been a while. I'm gonna go. Okay, so that was all the issues at the moment. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about a lot of the suggestions that were made to help make things better in the game as well. All right. So to start off, okay, so I'll start off with the gameplay. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. So in terms of gameplay, I suggested having some type of in-game like shop, not like the banners and jewels shop that we have in the game, but like an actual separate like Moogle shop, I guess we could say, where you can only use money in order to obtain a bunch of the various odd items and essentially commodities that we have in the game right now. So example, with money, if you have enough and whatnot, like you can very cheaply, you can buy more EXP medals, you can buy more SIDs, you can buy like some beginner skills, like you could buy extra copies of Second Chance or whatnot, or attack boost 1 and 2, you know, simple stuff, defense boosts 1 and 2, stuff like that. You can buy some cheap costing items, what they would be, I don't know, but just those are just examples, okay? And then like maybe on the higher end of the spectrum for the shop, you could have for like super high priced items they're actually pretty decent and even like really good too. So it could be like magic mirrors, brooms, chips and dales. You can even include some like non-meta skills such as like attack boost 3 or 4 max. So that way like we as players can like consistently try to keep up on our skills. And for those I probably should add that because I didn't think I forgot to add it, but they can even add a new option in the actual shop too, where like you can spend jewels to convert it into money. so that way you can actually buy things from the Moogle shop. Like that right there is still a way to make money, because like actual like real life money for Senna, because like the fact that like this new shop is going to give players a reason to actually want to use their money and whatnot, like the in-game money, and then spend their real money to like get in-game money. That's a little confusing, but whatever. I honestly think something like this would be a really good idea, and still goes along with like the whole aspect of Kingdom Hearts anyway. So like to me that'd be a really cool like just option to have. Another point I made for gameplay suggestions was having pretty much every single previous event-specific banners of events need to appear more often, or just period. Because honestly, all these like collaboration events and stuff that come out with specific banners and medals and whatnot, the banners and medals themselves never come back. The only like exception that I've seen so far are like the World of Final Fantasy, and those came back super late by the time that they were practically starting to become obsolete. So we need more stuff like that, and this is primarily to help out the newer players, as well as like it also helps out some of the other players as well who never got some of those a chance to get like some of the like OP medals. Like, what if I want to try to get Scrooge McDuck now? Okay, in the past I wasn't like because I didn't have jewels and whatnot, or I didn't want to go for it, but like they could bring him back, and now at this point I might be like I might not mind doing it, type of thing. Like, it's a chance to give players more options. Like I just don't know why they don't do it. And in a sense, this could even if they roll out the same like event quests and stuff like they did for the previous events, that would at the very least give us some type of sense of like content being put out, even if it's just previous content. Just give it like it gives us something to do, and it's for something cool, for a series we like and stuff like DuckTales and whatnot. And like it's just not a bad. Just reuse old stuff, like, but they don't do it. Like almost every other gacha game that I know does stuff like this. That's not from Square Enix, like from Gummy and whatnot. But like, they don't do it, and I'm just like, why? Another point that I made, and this one is actually fairly interesting. I stated this right before it somewhat happened, but I mentioned the fact that we need like permanent, like kind of critical mode type quests in the game that are supposed to be like ridiculously hard to beat, even for veteran players. But if you manage to beat these quests, you get like some really amazing prize or reward for beating this quest. I suggested maybe like these really OP medals that are specific just to the quest. You can't get it from banners and whatnot. You can only get them from beating the quest, and they're permanent too. So it gives players a sense of like even if I can't beat it now, at the very least when I get better at the game, or I get better medals and whatnot, or Keyblades, I can go back and try and beat it, and it gives you like a sense of accomplishment. And you could try using like really infamous and popular characters like Sephiroth, Organization 13 members and whatnot. And so I suggested it, and like I thought that was a really cool idea. Oddly enough, JP actually just comes around the corner with the new Organization 13 missions that they're coming out. The first one that we saw in JP was against Zaldin. He's level 5,000 with over 9,000 HP bars. That's ridiculous. But like at the same time, that's also really cool. And the reward for beating him too is getting 5 trait medals for the new Zaldin Kai medal, which is like it's like almost an EX, but not an EX. I would think it. I would so far. I want to think of it along the lines of like being better than a normal medal, but not as good as an EX medal, like an in between. But to me, that's really cool, and like it's kind of funny that they did that right after I posted that. So I thought it was fun. So I kind of I'm hoping, I'm kind of guessing that the new Organization 13 quests are gonna be kind of like their version of these like critical mode type quests that I suggested, but we'll see. I also suggested don't release 0 AP campaigns anymore during competitive weeks. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I also suggested that we just completely remove the small deal banner that we currently have in the shop and just make it a permanent free daily pull, because honestly no one pulls from the small deal. All right, even Glacy and the other people who were in the stream, in their last stream, even they mentioned that like they don't do it and like no one pulls from it. So it's just like if even they are like admit it, so it's just like even if they, so it's just like even if they are admitting that like it's kind of pointless, so it's like you might as well either take it out or change it so to make it to like a free daily pull to make us happy and whatnot. Even like the Final Fantasy Record Keeper game that we just had a collaboration with, they have a free daily pull. Even though like we like it gives you like, you know, really basic like low tier stuff, like, and that's all I'm expecting from a small deal as well from Union Cross. Like at the very least it's a free pull and it's like it's something cool to have. Yeah, so it's just one of those things. Okay. All right, so now let's get on to the like last portion of the post, and I know this is fairly long. So the last two portions that I have are these are suggestions that I made towards actual Keyblades, as well as some future medals that we can have in the game. And these are a lot of like cool stuff, as well as some things I feel like we personally need that we're lacking right now in the game. So in terms of Keyblade suggestions, I suggested that we add more multi-attributed Keyblades to the game, specifically ones that have more power upright slots within the 3rd and 5th slots of the Keyblade. Because as of right now, we don't have any multi-attributed Keyblades in the game that do so. So like Starlight doesn't have a single power upright slot. Stroke of Midnight does not have a single power upright slot within like, you know, slots 3 and 5. And same thing with Fairy Stars. And the reason why I mentioned saying that has to be within the 3rd and 5th slots is because of the fact that the first 2 slots on basically every single Keyblade are used for your main buffer medal and debuffer medal, as well as a copy medal typically. So the first 2 slots on almost every single Keyblade are almost irrelevant. And as of right now, every single multi-attribute Keyblade that we have in the game does not have a power upright slot, and which kind of sucks because as of right now, because there's a ton of really good power upright medals, but aside from the Olympia and Fenrir, there's no chance to actually use them, which kind of sucks. And it's like it's pretty much like the main reason why no one wanted to get, or not like where, and it's pretty much the main reason why HD Terra EX was the least popular medal to get out of all 3 Wayfinder trio medals, because of the fact that like, well, there's just not as many good chances to use it. So a kind of long another thing that I mentioned about Keyblades, a suggestion that I have, is that I wanted to see more reverse heavy Keyblades, more along the lines of like dual attributes. So like it'd be really nice to see if we had like a reverse heavy attributed version of the Olympia. So we have a reverse heavy speed and power version of the Olympia. Same thing with Same thing with Divine Rose. We can have a magic and speed heavy version of Divine Rose. And we could even... Now, Moogle Glory is already kind of heavy. Now, the Moogle Glory is already kind of reverse heavy, so I actually suggest the opposite for that. It would be nice to see a upright heavy version of the Moogle Glory. Just kind of opposites. And these are kind of like quality of life suggestions for all the suggestions like I made in this post. And honestly, this would just give a lot of medals in the game a lot more use and versatility. And it would also help make it so that specific Keyblades aren't like specifically in the meta either. And some future medals I suggested also kind of go along with that aspect. But I also suggested creating so those were kind of like the main like Keyblade suggestions I suggested. I even provided like a cool idea as to like possible Keyblades that they could do in the future as well, which is where they could provide like upright and reverse only Keyblade. So like, you know how in your Keyblade slots, there's like the main attribute being like power, speed, or magic, and then there's the sub attribute being reverse or upright. It'd be cool if we had Keyblades that were like the main attribute is just neutral. So just like the pet slot, how it's neutral, like any metal can go in it, it's just neutral. And then the sub attribute will be the, well, upright and reverse. To me, this would be a really cool aspect to have in the game, as well as you can even apply it to some of the more iconic Keyblades in the franchise, like Oathkeeper and Oblivion. Imagine if Oblivion ends up having mostly neutral reverse slots, and then Oblivion has mostly neutral upright slots, or even like a mix of, or even both of them can have a mix of neutral upright and reverse slots. Like stuff like that would be really cool. I mean, like that might possibly end up being a little bit game breaking, but like it's a cool idea. And last but not least, a lot of the suggested metals that I suggested, most of them ended up just being copy metal related. So like for example, speed reverse metal setups are essentially the worst setups in the game. Worst supported setups in the game, I should say. And that is almost primarily because the fact that we don't have a single reversed speed copy metal in the global version of the game at the moment. And that's the primary reason why. I suggested having reverse versions of the key art copy metal, so like a Bond, Sky, and Beginnings. And that would just simply help us give versatility in our setups, and I'm basically just trying, like pretty much most of this section is just saying, give us a copy metal of every single type of attribute and sub-attribute. So that way we have versatility in every single Keyblade and setups that we do, because as well as it would also give players a lot more versatility in being able to use different Keyblades for the meta, I should say. Because at the moment, because of what the current copy metals that we have in the game, it forces us to use specific strategies and like by extension, like certain metas within the game. Whereas if we had a copy metal for every single attribute in the game, a lot more Keyblades would be available to use for being competitive worthy and being in the meta. The only thing I stated in here that was not related to copy metals is that we need more non-EX reverse support in the game. This was already kind of addressed anyways in the stream, but like I mentioned, I just put it in here strictly for being thorough. All right, so I know that was a lot, guys. It's like my voice. Yeah, my mom just kind of brought me a bottle of water too, because like my throat is starting to hurt. But yeah, it's a very long thing. I spent quite a bit of time putting this together. So for those of you who took the time to listen to this, I would really appreciate if you can go ahead and take the time to visit the link in the description below to the actual post itself and leave it an upvote to help it make it more noticeable, as well as like if you have your own suggestions and problems and whatnot, go ahead and leave it in the comments to the post as well. But other than that, I know this was a long video. I appreciate you guys taking the time, for those of you who made it this far, for listening and whatnot. But other than that, that's it for today, guys. I'm just doing what I can to keep you guys updated and whatnot. I'm planning to release some other very useful guides for the game itself fairly soon. But other than that, my name is Brian from Kingdom Hearts Cross Nation, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.